Good day to the respected lecturer and my fellow classmates. I'm Tivia Das, and together with my group members, we are delighted to present our study entitled Exploring Teachers' Perceptions of the Influence of Online Gaming on Secondary School Students' Behavior and Emotional Well-being. I'm sure many of us know someone who enjoys online gaming, or maybe some of us play games ourselves. Today, online gaming has become a normal part of teenagers' lives. But there is always one question that people ask: is online gaming actually good or bad for students? Instead of asking the students, we decided to ask the people who observe them almost every day, their teachers. Teachers witness students' behavior, emotions, and learning in the classroom, so we believe their perspectives could provide valuable insights. So let's begin. Next slide, please. So here is our research team. We have Anna Puan Chin Hui, David Satyabudi, myself Tivia Das, Yap Ho Sim, and Kung Lai Keng. Okay, each of us will be presenting different parts of the study today. So you will be hearing from all five of us throughout the presentation. Now that you know who we are, let me give you a Lai Keng will give a quick overview of what we will be presenting.
Okay, thanks, Tivia. So I'm going to provide you a quick overview of our presentations. We'll be beginning with the introductions and the background to explain why this study was conducted. Then we will briefly review previous study and the theory that guide our research. After that, we will explain our methodology before sharing our findings. And finally, we discuss what this finding means and conclude with the key message from our study. Without further delay, I'd like to invite Tivia to present the extract.
Thank you, Laikang. As online gaming becomes increasingly popular, researchers have become more interested in understanding how it affects young people. However, we noticed that most previous studies focus on students themselves and mainly use quantitative methods. So we wanted to look at the issue from a different angle. We explored teachers' perspectives because teachers observe students every day and are often the first to notice changes in their behavior or emotions. Using a qualitative phenomenology study, we interviewed 5 secondary school teachers. What surprised us was teachers did not simply say gaming is good or bad. Instead, they consistently said that it really depends on how students manage their gaming. And you'll see this as an idea of balance and self-regulation appearing throughout our findings. Now let's hand it over to David.
Okay, here we are in the introduction. It is about the background of the study of the online gaming has become a common activity among secondary school students. As you know, online gaming has been played in the class sometimes. The students are using their gadgets, iPhones, mobile phones in the class. And excessive gaming may affect students' learning behavior and also emotional well-being and social relationship. Sometimes students are sleeping in the class or swearing or say some bad words in the class, or they don't pay attention when the teacher are explaining the subject. Now, as you know, the teachers observe students daily. They are the expert of the students. That is why in our research we choose the teacher's perspective to give us a deep understanding about the students' emotion and social relationship and well-being according when they are playing the mobile phone or the mobile gaming, and play an important role in identifying changes in behavior and emotional well-being associated with online gaming. Going next. Now, the problem statement is the research gap. Most previous studies focus on students' perspective rather than teachers' perceptions. Previous research mainly used quantitative methods, providing limited in-depth understanding. Now, because we are now using the qualitative. Few qualitative studies have explored Malaysian teachers' perception of online gaming. Going next. Now, the research question here is, the first research question, what are secondary school teachers' perceptions of the influence of online gaming on students' classroom behavior? Number two, the research question 2. How do secondary school teachers perceive the influence of online gaming on students' emotional well-being? That's the 2 questions. Okay, the next one will go to the significance of the study. Now, the significance of this study have 3 parts, the 3 groups. First is the teachers and the school. It's for early identification and intervention. The second group is the parents. The parents can encourage a healthy gaming habit because after school, the parents are always watching their kids. So the parents are playing an important role to encourage a healthy gaming habit. So they are not sleeping late. Let's say 3 in the morning, they're still playing game. Now, the third significance of the study is for the researchers and the policy makers. So it's to inform the future educational policies. Okay, now I'm offering this one to Anna.
Thank you, David. When we review previous studies, one thing became very clear. Online gaming is not about whether it's good or bad. Its effects depend on many factors. For example, how long students play, what games they play, and whether they can balance gaming with their studies. So think about 2 students playing the same game. One stops after an hour and finishes homework. Another plays until 2 in the morning. Clearly, the outcomes will be very different. That is why we also looked at 2 different theories to explain these differences. The first one is ecological systems theory, and the next one is social learning theory. Next slide, please. So the first theory is Bronfenbrennen's ecological system theory. This theory tells us that students don't develop gaming behavior on their own. Their behavior is influenced by the interactions they have with the people around them. For example, parents, teachers, friends, and school. So rather than saying online gaming takes the full responsibility of the negative consequences or positive consequences, we also need to consider the environment that shapes students' gaming behaviors. Next slide, please. So the second theory is Bandura's social learning theory. Bandura believed that people learn by observing, modeling, and interacting with others. This fits online gaming very well because when students play multiplayer games, they constantly communicate, cooperate, and observe other players. These experiences may help develop pro-social behaviors such as teamwork and communication. However, they may also learn undesirable antisocial behaviors, depends on the gaming environments. Thank you.
So in conclusion, right, based on the previous studies, most of them are actually quantitative approach, where they focus on the gaming disorder, psychological well-being, as well as behavioral outcome. We do see the research gap over here, whereby very few or very limited qualitative approach are being conducted, especially among the teachers, right? So in our studies, we will focus or we will choose the qualitative approach to explore Malaysian secondary school teachers' perspective on the influence of online gaming on the students' behavior, specifically classroom behaviors, as well as their emotional well-being. Right, next.
Okay. To explore these perceptions, we adopted a phenomenology design. 5 teachers from urban secondary schools were selected because they have direct experience observing students' gaming behaviors. We conducted semi-structured interviews, allowing teachers to speak openly and share real classroom experiences. The interviews were then analyzed using the Braun and Clark's thematic analysis. Now let's move on to the findings.
Okay, so the first theme is about students' learning behavior. This was actually one of the strongest themes that emerged from our interviews. When we asked the teachers about gaming, so most of them didn't immediately say that gaming was the problem. Instead, they pointed out something that is important, excessive gaming. For example, one teacher shared that many students came to school sleepy because they had been gaming late the night before. Another teacher observed that these teachers found it very difficult to concentrate during lessons and often fail to complete their homework. So, but here is a very interesting part. The teachers also told us that not every student who plays games performs poorly. Some students are able to balance between gaming with their studies, and they still complete their assignments, they still pay attention in the class, and they perform well academically. So the teachers believed that the real issue wasn't gaming itself, it was whether students could manage the time or regulate their gaming behaviors. And this idea of self-regulation becomes a recurring theme throughout our study. So, besides learning behavior, we were also interested in understanding how gaming affects students emotionally. So, I pass my tie to Divya.
Okay, so the next theme is about students' emotional well-being. So, when students spend too much time gaming, teachers notice that they become more tired, irritable, frustrated, and sometimes even experience mood swings. One teacher explained that some students become easily annoyed after gaming, while another mentioned that they struggle to control their emotion. However, teachers also recognize that gaming isn't always negative. Several participants shared that moderate gaming could actually help students relax after a stressful day at school. Just like how some people watch movies or listen to music, students may use gaming as a way to unwind themselves. So once again, the teachers felt that the key wasn't gaming itself, but whether students know when to stop, how much to play. Next, Lycan will present on how online gaming shapes students' social relationships.
So, thank you, Divya. So, our third theme is probably one of the most interesting findings. When we think about gaming, many people will be assuming it makes students antisocial. Is that right? But the teachers give us most balanced view. One of the positive side, multiplayer games actually encourage students to communicate, cooperate, and work as a team. Another teachers also mentions that students constantly discuss strategy and solve problems together when playing the online games. Another teachers also notice that quieter students become more confident when interacting with their online teammates. So in many cases, gaming actually helps students to develop social and communication skill. However, there was also another side of story. Teachers observed that when gaming become excessive, some students become more attached to their online friends than the people around them. They start neglecting face-to-face relationship and gradually withdraw from meaningful social interactions. So gaming either building a relationship or weaken them. And once again, it depends on how students manage their gaming habit. Transitions, the natural lead us to another important question. What role does teachers play? Pass to Debbie.
Right. Never mind, I will take over.
Sure.
Okay. So one of the very interesting findings that emerged from our interview is regarding teachers' role as intervention and also self-regulation that will moderate the influence of online gaming, right? Actually, teachers mentioned that if students have strong self-discipline, time management, and being responsible in handling the gaming, actually they do see that the situation or maybe the online gaming may actually bring some positive influence to the students. At the same time, with teacher intervention, such as a more appropriate or probably a stricter classroom management, some form of counseling, or maybe constant reminders, then those students are able to avoid excessive online gaming. So when they develop a balanced gaming habits, yeah, then we do see that the teachers do perceive that the gaming habits can actually bring positive results or impact towards their learning, towards their behavior, and also towards their well-being, as what we have shared in the first three themes that we have discussed early on. So in a way, online gaming itself is not the main problem, but the problem is the online gaming interest should be moderated and managed by the students' self-regulation and teacher intervention to produce a balanced gaming habits. So the last theme, based on our research, is putting all this together. So we conclude that teachers actually perceive online gaming as having both positive and negative influences. So the positive influences probably come from moderate gaming, whereby it can actually promote communication, teamwork, strategic thinking, and relaxation, as what we have shared earlier. However, when gaming is being excessive, then it actually, or it probably will bring negative impacts, such as students will experience lower academic engagement, some form of emotional instability, and also poor classroom behavior. So all in all, teachers do agree that there are positive and negative influences. However, some teachers actually more inclined to perceiving online gaming as bringing negative influence, simply because maybe most of the students are still young because they are in the adolescent age. Yeah, so probably they have low self-regulation. Therefore, in a way, they do perceive that the negative influence could be slightly more than the positive influence. Yeah, as what one of the teacher has said, it's mostly negative. And another teacher also agreed to this, saying that the influence is actually more negative. So these are our 5 themes that we actually conclude from our research. So I pass on to Lei King for the discussion and the conclusion.
Thank you. Yeah. So what do these findings tell us? Perhaps the biggest takeaway that teachers did not judge students based on whether they play games. Instead, they judge the outcome they observe in the classroom. For example, the teachers were concerned when gaming affected students' sleep, homework, concentrations, and emotion. This is slightly different from many previous quantitative studies, which often focus on gaming durations. Our teachers focus more on behavioral self-regulations. So our finding is also support Brown-Friend-Brenner theory, which remind us that students' behavior is influenced by their families, school, and peers, not gaming alone. Similarly, Bandura theories explain why multiplayer gaming can strengthen their communication skill and teamwork through observations and interactions. So, rather than asking, is gaming good or bad? Perhaps a better question is, how can we help students develop healthy gaming habits? And I think that most important message from our discussion. Next. Finally, I would like to conclude our presentations. Our study explored on how Malaysian secondary school teachers perceive the influence of online gaming on students' behavior and emotion well-being. The findings show that online gaming have both positive and negative influence. Moderate gaming may encourage communications, teamwork, and emotion relaxations. However, excessive gaming may negatively affect students' learning, emotions, and real-life relationships. Most importantly, teacher consistently emphasizing that self-regulations rather than gaming itself determine whether students' experience is positive or negative outcome. Therefore, instead of viewing online gaming as a problem, school and family should work together to help students develop balance and responsibility gaming habits. Ultimately, our study remains us that the goal is not to eliminate online gaming, but to help students use it wisely. Thank you very much for your attention.